All right, let's get right to it. I want to start with a question that, well, it might just flip a common idea you have on its head. Do all Buddhists meditate?
I mean, think about it for a second. When I say the word Buddhism, what's the very first image that pops into your head?
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess it's something like someone sitting cross-legged, eyes closed, right? A monk, maybe, just deep in silent meditation. It's the classic image, the one we see everywhere. It's almost become the logo for the entire faith.
But what if that's not the whole story? What if I told you that image, as powerful as it is, well, it's a little misleading, and that maybe, just maybe, it's not even the first step on the path?
This is exactly what we're going to call the meditation misconception.
You see, when we think of meditation, we've got this very specific picture, right? Sitting, cross-legged, eyes shut. But the reality? It's way, way broader. In actual Buddhist practice, meditation can be done sitting, sure, but also walking, standing, even lying down. And get this, you don't even have to have your eyes closed. It's so much more flexible than most people think.
And here's the real kicker. Think about this. If you have a friend who grew up in a Buddhist family, go ask them how often they meditate. There's a really good chance they'll say something like, not that much. And that right there tells you something huge. It tells you that being a Buddhist has to be about more than just this one single activity.
So if it's not all about meditation, then what is it all about? Well, if we go back to the Buddha's actual advice, it turns out there are 3 core practices that lay out the entire path.
This path has 3 distinct steps, and they go in a specific order. First, you have sila, which means virtue. Then comes samadhi, or tranquility. And finally, prajna, which is wisdom. That's the roadmap. And notice the order here. It's super important. Meditation, as we'll soon see, fits into that second step, not the first one.
So let's start where you're supposed to start, at the absolute foundation, sila, or virtue.
So what is sila? At its core, it's about ethical conduct. It's about self-discipline. Think of it like this. It is the absolute cornerstone of the entire building. Before you can even think about calming your mind, you first have to get your actions in order. You got to clean house, so to speak.
And this isn't some vague philosophical idea. No, it's super practical. It boils down to following 5 key virtues, or precepts. You abstain from killing, from stealing, from sexual misconduct, from lying, and from taking intoxicants that just mess with your mind.
Okay, but why? Why is this the first step? Why is simply being a good, ethical person the absolute prerequisite for everything else that follows?
Well, the Buddha had a really clear answer. He said the whole point of practicing virtue is to stay away from regret. And that makes so much sense when you think about it, right? When you lie or steal or hurt someone, it creates this static, this turmoil inside you. Regret is a huge, massive obstacle to any kind of inner peace. So sila is all about building a clear conscience. It's about getting to a place where your mind isn't constantly at war with itself over things you've done.
Okay, so once that foundation is solid, once you've got that regret-free mind, then you're ready to move on to step 2, samadhi. And as you'll see, it's about a lot more than just meditation.
And here, you can really see the logic, the connection. A life of virtue, sila, is like preparing the soil. It creates the perfect fertile ground for a calm mind, for samadhi to actually grow. You just can't have the second without the first.
So what is samadhi exactly? It's that state of mind we're aiming for. You know, a mind that's calm, concentrated, and just genuinely peaceful. This is where the real mental heavy lifting starts to happen.
But what's so cool about this is that formal meditation is just one way to get there. It's just one piece of the samadhi puzzle. You also cultivate it by practicing mindfulness in your everyday life, by doing good things for people, by helping out. All of these things feed into creating that state of tranquility. But here's the thing. Even this amazing state of peace and calm, it's not the end goal. It's actually a tool. It's the tool you need to get to the third and final step, prajna, which means wisdom.
So let's trace the path again. You start with virtue, to get rid of regret. That clear conscience allows your mind to become calm. And that calm, focused mind becomes the perfect instrument, like a finely tuned microscope, to see clearly and develop real, deep wisdom.
So what kind of wisdom are we talking about here? Well, in Buddhism, prajna isn't about knowing a bunch of facts. It's the deep gut-level understanding of the true nature of life itself. Specifically, that everything is always changing. Everything is impermanent. It's about finally seeing things exactly as they are, without all the stories we layer on top.
And that's the whole point. This is what it's all been building towards. The ethics, the mindfulness, the meditation, all of it, every single part is done for one reason and one reason only, to create the perfect mental conditions for this profound wisdom to emerge.
Which brings us full circle, right back to where we started. If being a Buddhist isn't about what family you're born into, and it's not even just about whether you meditate, then what does it actually mean to be a Buddhist?
And you know what? The answer is beautifully simple. A Buddhist is just someone who is practicing this path. That's it. It's not a title you're given or a box you check. It's an active, ongoing commitment to cultivating virtue, then tranquility, and finally, wisdom in your own life.
So, I want to leave you with this. If this whole thing is about practice, not labels, it kind of asks us a personal question, doesn't it? So forget the word Buddhist for a second. What's one tiny thing from this path, a small act of kindness, one moment of calm, a little reflection on change? What could you practice today?